Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Alan Moore's Glory from Avatar Press that came out in 2001. But before that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access. It's a full-size, full-color, 12-page comic book that I put out every month. And it's usually 12 pages, and I do 2 pages, and the next couple pages are done by backup artists. But I'm exploring turning this into a true anthology. And even though this month is 12 pages by me and then another couple pages by Jeremy Duncan and Paul Cortron, it's going back to 10 pages for me, and I might even change that a little bit. So there's lots of different changes. There's a new logo, more pages, lots of different stuff. The cover for this month, number 32, is by Jeff Bartrand. I know I've said his name incorrectly the last couple times. My apologies, Jeff. And so it is fantastic. I love the cover. I love the power. I love the it's almost an homage to heavy metal. And yeah, you can get these at patreon.com/Alexander Turbin, or you can go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and or you could just message me at alexturbin0441 at Instagram or alexturbin04401 at Yahoo. There's lots of different ways you can contact me, and I'm always willing and eager to get some comic books into your guys' hands. And I truly appreciate the support, and it helps support the channel and the reviews and all of that cool stuff too. It's all intertwined. But, doing comics is my main love, and I'll always love it more than anything else. And that's why I have the channel, is to express the love I have for comic books and to share it with you guys. So, Alan Moore's Glory. This is one of those, he did like a few issues of, like he did one issue of Youngblood, where he relaunched it, but he did a whole bunch of issues of Supreme, which are fantastic. And he was going to do, I think, a whole bunch of issues of Glory, and he was going to reimagine her. And she's basically the Wonder Woman of the awesome, like Rob Liefeld's awesome entertainment kind of conglomeration, just like Supreme is the Superman. And Alan Moore, as always, he takes it, he dissects it, he changes it, he moves things around, he goes back to the base of what the initial premise of the book was. I mean, she's basically Wonder Woman, and he just kind of changes it all around. Which is one of the things that I truly love about Alan Moore, is he's got this different angle of looking at things. And like, instead of calling people superheroes, he might call them science heroes. And a few things he's called them science heroes, and that's just blows my mind. It's such a small thing, but it's so impactful, really, because he just uses every kind of aspect like that. I love the cover. There were a bunch of covers. I don't know who else did the other colors. This is by Joseph Michael Linsner, who's one of my favorite artists, and I love the cover. I don't know how he does it. I think he must do it must be watercolor, but I love it. I think he's one of my favorite artists easily. One of the things that when I do go over his stuff, I see that there's a little bit of a stiffness in his art, which is, nobody's perfect, but there's just a little bit there. But there's a lot of times he just doesn't have the stiffness, and just like that, there's no stiffness here, and it's really a fantastic cover. I would love some of his original art. I mean, it's just beautiful. So we've got Alan Moore as the writer, Marat Michaels as the penciler, Robert Jones as the ink, and Nimbus Studios as the colors. This whole studios computer coloring, we're not out of the woods yet with that, because there's also AI, and a lot of people do computer color, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with computer coloring. I do computer coloring, but there's also at the time it was in its infancy, and it didn't really look, I think, as good as it could have. This is pretty good, but there's a lot of issues that I have with the coloring of the Image books back in the day. So this is when they left Image. Rob Liefeld left Image, and he started Avatar, or he was with Awesome. I don't know really what Avatar was. As anybody that knows the inner workings of the Awesome Entertainment and Avatar and stuff like that, I know Avatar had published a lot of Alan Moore's other work, but I don't think it's like a lot of the stuff is not really Alan Moore's writing. It's him either scripting or he has the story and then somebody else adapts it. So I would really like to know the complete inner workings of Avatar and stuff like that. I know there's like some Frank Miller stuff that he did for Avatar, and I'm not entirely sure if that's actually him doing the writing and the scripting and everything, or is just a story that he wrote and then somebody adapted it. But this is actually, I believe, Alan Moore's writing because it reads a lot like his. And I'm 6 minutes in. I haven't really opened the book yet, so let's get into the story and everything. The covers are by all these crazy people. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 of them. I'm not really a person that goes and gets different covers. If one is like one of my favorites, then I will definitely go get it. Like I didn't actually get this because of the cover or because of Alan Moore. I mean, I did get it because of that, but it was in Goodwill, and there was a box of comics, and it was $3, and I was like, I just have to have this, and so let's get into this. So, like I said, it's basically a reselling of a Wonder Woman story, only turned up on its head, like he always does. And also, people have said something like Promethea is, which he did later on after this. He turned his own. He created his own universe, and I think he wanted to kind of excuse me, have an awesome type universe or DC type universe, all his own, where he was not confined to any kind of, he wasn't beholden to anybody. He wasn't doing work for hire with his own characters. Prometheus is nothing like this. This is almost basically a Wonder Woman story, and Promethea is not at all. I'm definitely going to go through all of Alan Moore's stuff on the channel. So if you guys like Alan Moore, and I have just about all of his stuff. I don't have the porno comic that he did, and there's a couple of other things that I'm missing, but I think I probably have 95% of all of Alan Moore's work, and that's a hefty sum because he's done a lot of work. So anyway, it's some narration and this guy talking about how he has dinner at this diner, and this waitress, she's God. He doesn't say a God, he just says God, because I think he only believes in the biblical God. And he talks about how she's a little cuckoo and she's a little weird, and but he loves her. She's beautiful. She's God. He's got all of these biblical references, and she likes him too. So she gives her her number, and he's gonna come over later and talk to her. But I guess that was right before she was about to leave the diner, and she just kind of starts walking home. And zip bam, it goes to back to the beginning of her origin story, basically. And it goes into a very much like Sandman. The whole comic turns into this goddesses type, Mount Olympus and the Greek gods, and all of the gods are alive and well in this universe. And I've been watching the Sandman season 2, and I am going to talk about that at some point. So I love that. It's really, I'm so heartbroken that Neil Gaiman did all the stuff that he did do, and I'm pretty sure that he did do a lot of stuff. But you never know until we get more information about exactly what happened. It's just really horrible because that Sandman is so fantastic. The TV show, the comics, and it could have gone season after season after season, and it would have been really fantastic. And it's just a horrible shame. But this kind of goes along that vein where they've got different lettering for the goddesses, and there's regular lettering for the humans, and it's some sort of what's her name? Demeter. Demeter is some sort of queen goddess in Mount Olympus, and she's got all of these servants, and they're just kind of she's having a bath. It's one of the awesome or Rob Liefeld's awesome way of doing things. I say awesome as in his company, not awesome as in he's awesome, but his characters, he he likes to sex them up. He likes them to be very sexy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I have Cyrene, and she's very sexy, and Alan Moore, he's more than willing to do some sexy stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. When he does stuff that is only the sexy stuff and doesn't have any other kind of redeeming qualities, then I'm not really into it. It's got to have some kind of story. It's going to have some kind of meaning. It's got to have some sort of overarching way of being that's not just sexy and kind of manipulative of the sexuality. But Demeter is talking to one of her myrmidons, and it's some sort of human that's died, and she takes her to the afterlife. And so instead of going to the afterlife, she goes to Mount Olympus. I think this is Mount Olympus, and they're walking through the garden so she can dry off. And then this page here, I don't really love this page here. A lot of times, this is cool, where you've got the same panel and the characters are all the same, but the background is moving because something's happening. And what here is Lilith, goddess of evil or something like that, is rising from the ground, and she's coming up to talk to Demeter and her friend. Now, normally I would say this is okay. All of these figures, the 4 panels are the same pose. It's the same image, and I'm all right with that. The background kind of changes, and I don't know. I just feel like it could have been done a little bit better. I'm not against it, but this one time I'm not loving it. I would much rather have seen like their faces, their expressions, something like you can tell that they're weirded out, they're surprised, and I just would have liked to have seen like a close-up of their expressions or something like that. I do love the background, and one of the things I want to talk about also is that when they're in the afterworld or Mount Olympus or whatever you call, there's these backgrounds that are these flowers, and there's this, it's almost like the world has taken over the panels of the comic book, and that is really such a fantastic way about doing it. And you know that it's all Alan Moore creating this stuff. He's like, I want the pages to have this bleeding feel where it's a universe that goes on forever. It's not being confined by the panels, and you know that he was the one that is explaining to the artist all of the things that he wants. We all know how detailed he is in his scripts, and but part of that is also detailing the things that he wants from his artist to do, and he wants the story wants to come from the story. And it's not like if this was just a one-off, and you might be like, oh, the artist and the writer, talked things over and they decided to do this. But he's done this kind of thing over and over and over again, whether it's Watchmen or whether it's Miracle Man or whether it's Swamp Thing. He does things to change the panels, to change the pages, to change the book. He's not, excuse me, he's not ever resting on his laurels and just saying, I'm going to take this panel by panel approach to a comic book and be good with it. I'm fine with it. No, he's looking at ways to increase the artistry of the comic book form, the comic book medium. And that's really what I love about Alan Moore, is that he's never satisfied. He's always exploring new avenues, and that's really what I try to do, even though I could never compare myself to Alan Moore or any of the real great cartoonists. But it's something that I recognize, and it's something that I really try to get into myself, is by experimenting and exploring and changing. It's not just who is it? Steve Bissette, I think, that said he hates the panel grid and he just tries to burst out of it. So maybe Alan Moore has learned from Steve Bissette and John Toltobin and stuff, and he's like, I'm going to do something completely different, and it's going to change comic book history, or it's just going to be really awesome. And so that's what he does. So Lilith rises. She's an evil goddess, and her Demeter's daughter, who is Glory, she says she's gone off to Earth to be part of humanity and do all of this stuff. And Demeter and Lilith is like, you got to bring her back. I don't approve of this. You can't do this. So you have to do something about this. Demeter says she's a grown woman. She can do whatever she wants. She's a goddess. She can, she's a half goddess. I don't think she's a full goddess. She can go to Earth. She can do whatever she wants, and there's nothing you can do about it. And Lilith says that I'm going to kill her. I'm going to try to kill your daughter. And Demeter says, there is nowhere within my daughter that your wickedness may find a claw hold with. There is nothing in her heart but love. Good morrow to you, lady of the night. And so Lilith says, love. Very well, then shall be the dagger which destroys her. So we think she's going to get a broken heart or something like that. And then we go to the next scene, which is modern day or human time or whatever, and it's Glory in she's in a sphere, and she's underwater with some sort of awesome entertainment's Aquaman, because Rob Liefeld has taken all of the elements of DC and worked them into his own universe, really. And she's just kind of talking to him about their adventure. They fought some mermen or something, and he's just being grateful and stuff. She flies off to her home. She is she shares the body with another woman, just like Shazam, and only they are cohesive. Like when she turns into her human self, the human self doesn't remember everything, but she does remember some things. But Glory, or rather, whatever her name is, I can't remember her name, but it's like underside. It's what's her name? Gloriana. So her real goddess name is Gloriana, but they shorten it to Glory. And actually, they talk about that later on. But she's a demi-goddess, and she occupies the same body as this other girl. And but the other girl, who is the goddess from the waitress, and so she's going home and preparing for her friend to come over, and they have a date. But she goes to her house. Part of her wackiness is that she talks to toys and she talks to comic books, and she's cool. She's a cool chick, but she's also a little wonky and a little touched in the head. She picks up a comic book, as anybody, who loves comic books. They get home and they see a comic book lying on the floor. They're like, hey, I'm going to pick it up. But this is the origin story of Glory. So we've got a different artist than the first few pages of Glory, and because as anyone that's read Supreme, and if you haven't read Supreme, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I will go over it at some point because it's one of the most fantastic comic books of all time. And so many of his stories, he'll start off in modern day, and then it'll show some sort of flashback to the 40s and 50s, and it'll have some kind of weird connection to whatever he's fighting at the time or dealing with at the time. And so it's always connected, but you see this old-timey way of doing it. And Alan Moore, he did that with the 1963 comics, which I'm going to have to go back and read those because I didn't like them at the time, but I might if I go back and read them again. But whenever he's done that, he's had a different artist take over for the old-timey look. And this is by Melinda Gebbie. And I think that she's the one that did Gray Shirt. I'm not entirely sure. But Gray Shirt is one of my least favorite books of Alan Moore in the ABC universe, America's Best Comics universe, which I really love that universe. I really love all of his stuff, whether it's Top 10 or Promethea or Tom Strong. I love all of the ABC stuff. Everything is just so fantastic. And the starting point and the ending point is just so amazing, the way all of the comics intertwine together in a seamless kind of way to reach the ending, which is really interesting. So it's talking about, it's almost a dreamlike quality of this comic book, because some of the things don't happen, because I think that it's supposed to be retold in comic book story, but it's not real. It's kind of like the last episode I watched of Sandman, where the elves say they're watching William Shakespeare's play with them, and they halfway through they're like, "This is not how it happened." And Dream says, "It doesn't matter that this isn't how it happened. It's still one of the greatest stories of all time, and people will remember the gist of it." And that's kind of what is going on here. Everybody loves her, everybody knows her, but just who is this maiden of myth and mystery? Find out in The Origin of Glory. Our tale begins in the ancient realm of mythology on the earth goddess Demeter's sacred Isle of Thule, not far from the infinite world tree. So, like I said, all of the gods are intertwined here. The Norse gods, the Egyptian gods, the Olympian gods, they're all intertwined. And Glory, taking a walk with her pet human cat flying thing, and then Hades comes along, and he convinces her to come back to hell with him, and she does. But then her mother Demeter, she's very upset, and she goes to all of the different goddesses and the gods and goddesses, and tries to find her, and she's just wailing because she's misses her daughter, and she's concerned. She goes into the human realm, and she walks for eons or whatever, years or whatever. She goes to different gods and goddesses. She finally makes it up to, I think he's supposed to be Satan, but it says, "By the great inferno, it is goddess here in the dark kingdoms. She is so splendid, I must make her mine." So I think he's supposed to be Satan. I'm not entirely sure if he's supposed to just be some sort of other Egyptian god or Olympian god or something like that. But I think he's supposed to be representative of Satan. So he falls in love with her, and he gets her to stay with him for a little while. Then he turns into rain, which, as all of the gods from the Greek mythology, they do weird stuff like that. They turn into a bird, and then they have sex with a person, or some fog or steam, and then have a child, and it's all just weird, crazy stuff. And it's all matter of factly told. It's very much like the Sandman. This whole part is like, it's a narration. It's telling you what happened. There is dialogue, but it's not the important part. The important part is the story being told, and it's not real. It's just like they said earlier. But it's got a dreamlike quality. It's an ethereal realm. It's really an interesting way to do a backstory, to do a background origin story and stuff like that. Eventually, Zeus gets wind of what's going on with Glory and Demetrius, whatever her name is, and he tells one of his guys, Hermes, to go find her and bring her back because he's very upset about it. So Hermes finds Hades, goes to hell and finds Hades, and convinces him to have her go back and live with the gods for half a year and go back to Hades with half a year. She goes back up into the world, and she finds that her mother is pregnant because of the silver rain from Satan or some other creature like that. It's called silver. He's silver rain. So I think they just call him that, even though I think it's supposed to be Satan. She has the baby. We don't really know who that is. But all of these other gods come and show their respect to the new god baby, and whether it's Horus or Thor or whatever, they come and they talk to her. And this is one of the interesting things. Remember, she's reading the comic book, but suddenly, as Thor bestows the sky god's blessing, "And I grant thee fatherly protection," so that, what then? Lilith shows up. "Hold, I, Lilith, lady of the night, would bring my gift to the child." What gift would you bring, mother of monsters? "I bring her the promise of destruction. Her father, the fifth duke, is my cheating husband, and in my betrayal I shall destroy her, just as I shall destroy you, Gloria West." So she's pointing at her, and then the next page, which is great because it's a flip, it's a surprise page. I don't often get surprised by comic books, and I think that's one of the faulty points of doing a horror comic, is that it's really hard to get that jump scare or surprise that you really need from a horror story. But this really kind of surprised me. She talks to her directly from the comic book as she's reading. She drops the comic, and But then she realizes that she's a little loopy, so she goes back and she rereads it and says, "Just as I shall destroy all who love her." So she thinks that in her mind that Lilith was talking to her, but really she rereads it and it's not her talking to her. But it really probably is, because all of this stuff from Glory, because their memories are intertwined, and that's why she's loopy. This waitress and Glory are intertwined, and it's not like Shazam, where Billy Batson turns into Shazam, and they're kind of, I don't know where Billy Batson goes. I have a whole storyline really in mind for where do these people go that are alternate, alternate beings or whatever. It's like Captain Atom, is that his name? No, not Captain Atom. Is it Captain Atom? Where he's, or Firestorm, where the professor is in his head, but he's really could not be in his head. He could be in another dimension. But anyway, so she is weirded out by it, but then she relooks again, and it's not that. So she thinks she's just kind of messed up in the head. She knows she's messed up in the head, so she keeps reading the comic book. She realizes that she had a friend, and they were best friends. This is the coloring really is important, because she's got this earthly friend who becomes her life mate or whatever. She's got this red hair, and you know that is supposed to be the same character because they're wearing the same stuff. But because there's this blonde hair instead of red, big faux pas for the digital coloring. And so they go through all of these different adventures, and she eventually, she's looking through the scrying pool. She's looking at Earth, and it's the World War II and Hitler and the Nazis that she sees, and she says, "We haven't intervened in humanities." This is her mother, actually. "We haven't intervened in humanities affairs since the Trojan War," which, you know what? I don't understand why there's white hair. So this is Gloriana. Why does she have white hair all of a sudden, but she didn't have white hair before? That is the question. She doesn't have white hair. That's Gloriana, though, right? Oh, no, that's Persephone. All right, that's Persephone, Gloriana's sister. So the young daughter is actually his daughter and her daughter, and that's why she's got the white hair there, and because that is Gloriana. So anyway, now that I've got that straight, they are talking about going to Earth and trying to make things right. Her mother creates a portal for her. She says, "You'll be okay because you're a demigoddess and nothing can really hurt you." She goes to Earth. She defeats a bunch of Nazis. She becomes part of this group. I don't know if this is the same group that Supreme was part of. It must have been. Before long, she's celebrated heroine, and her soon graduates from club secretary to full-fledged member of the celebrated Allied Supermen of America. So it talks about her different adventures with the Siamese cat and Madame Manacle, and she's loved by World War II has ended, and she's got all these sailors loving her and stuff. And so she closes the comic book, and then it pans down. It could have been done. This panning down could have been done a little bit differently. This doesn't really need to be huge. It could have been a smaller panel and then just kind of pan down the building side, because at the bottom of the building is the guy that she gave her number to at the cafe, and he's talking to a prostitute. I assume she's a prostitute, but she's one of these jolly prostitutes, and her name's Lillian. And so he's really worried about talking to Glory, and which I don't think that's her name. But he says, I really like this girl. I don't understand what's going on. I'm not sure if I should go and talk to her and stuff, or if I should just leave well enough alone, because she's kind of kooky. Lillian tells him that good loving will fix anything, and that he should definitely go and see her and talk to her and stuff. So he does, and we realize that Lillian is Lilith, and remember she vowed to destroy Glory, and Persephone, Glory, and so not Persephone's her sister. So he goes up to her apartment. They have a great time. She's a little cuckoo. She's talking about her toys and her comic books and stuff. But she kind of hits on him, and they have a good time together, and they have sex, and they're doing everything. And so they're going about their business. And Lilith, in her universe, is ready to strike her revenge, and they're having sex, and they're ready to reach their climax, and she's they're enjoying each other, and then she stabs both of them with her metaphysical dagger. I don't know what's going on. There is an issue number 2, and I am going to get it because I get everything Alan Moore has ever done. And I'm just, I don't know what's going to happen next time. And but there's only 2 issues. This was supposed to be a regular ongoing series. But if anybody has seen the Rob Liefeld talking to the cartoonist kayfabe guys, he talks about Alan Moore and how a lot of weird stuff. How there was this Steve Moore, and how it was his neighbor, and he thought I don't know whether Alan Moore really is Steve Moore or what. So I don't know. So that is how it ends. The art is fantastic. I don't love the flashback art. It's not my favorite, but because it is a flashback, it lends itself completely to the story. So it is really, it hits everything. I do like the artist. He is almost a traditional image artist, but he's in there for the story. He's there with Alan Moore. It really kind of shows what an image artist could do or can do if they had a really good writer directing them. Really, if the image guys had been like, if Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld and Jim Lee had said, look, Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore, and Garth Ennis, you guys come along with us, create these characters with us. Alan Moore, you write Spawn. Garth Ennis, you write Youngblood. We would have different history. We would have a different history. I would have gotten every single one of those issues. I wouldn't have stopped reading after 2 or 3 issues of Image. And it would have been history would have been altered, but that didn't happen. The Image was created by artists, and even though we did have those few issues of writers, it wasn't until years later that they decided that writing really was the main focus of comic books, and it really should be. It's the characters, it's the writing, it's the interwovenness of the comic book medium, and you have to have great writing as well as great art to make a great comic book. So anyway, I love the writing, I love the art, and I'm going to give this. I'm not going to give it a 10, but I'm going to give it a 9. I love the cover. I love the art. The art is really good. There's some things that I have a little bit of problem with it. I feel like he's a younger artist. This Marat Michaels. I feel like he was a younger artist at the time, and he probably developed into something way better. But I really like the story. I really love how things are turned up on their heads, like always. And just everything is really fantastic. So I'm going to give it a 9. I could give it more, but I'm not going to give it any less. I will buy Glory number 2. It's like $10 or something like that. But I'm definitely going to get it. There's a this is like $10, between $5 and $10. I think you can find it with shipping, without shipping, whatever. So I did enjoy it, giving it a 9. If you're new to the channel, and you like this kind of stuff, you like indie comics or unusual comics from the 70s, 80s, 90s, or whatever, anything different, anything unusual, then that's really the kind of stuff that I do. That's my wheelhouse. But especially, Power Comics is really one of the biggest things that I do. So if you like this kind of stuff, if you love Alan Moore, if you love Daredevil, if you love, just intricate, interwoven stories, plots, characters, creations, then I'm going to go through it all, basically. But if you like that, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, give me a thumbs up. I always love the thumbs up. But even more than that, I love comments. I love talking about comic books. I love your guys' comments. If I don't respond, it's because I didn't see it, because it's all different places on YouTube. But if I see it, I'm going to respond. No ifs, ands, or buts, because I love talking about comic books. And so it's Monday, and we've got another full week. I'm going to try to have a video every day, but we will see, because I'm getting so close to hitting that membership threshold. And if I get enough view hours, so if you guys see this and you want to help out, just turn on one of my videos and just let it run. Let them run as long as you can, because that will really help me get the memberships. Because once I get the memberships, I'm going to offer memberships random access. And as I said, it's going to be changing into a real anthology. And so you'll have a lot of different artists, a lot of different perspectives, and it'll be cheap. It'll be $4, $3 or $4 for a comic book, and it'll be monthly. And it's going to keep going because we're up to the number 32. So thanks for watching. And whether you're an artist or a writer or a reader, you're still part of this great community, and you're doing what is really necessary in this community, and that is creating in the community. So, as I always say, keep on creating.